Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Watches TV, where I cover all the TV shows. I cover all the reality TV shows, the true crime TV shows, and all of the trending TV shows on all the streaming apps. And today I want to talk about the #1 trending TV show that just came out yesterday on Netflix, and that is Season 4 of Unsolved Mysteries. So let's go back in time, shall we? A couple of years ago, I don't remember how long ago that Season 1 came out, but I watched Season 1 of the reboot of Unsolved Mysteries. So, I'm 52 years old. I grew up watching Unsolved Mysteries. I loved watching Unsolved Mysteries. I watched them, in my 20s and things like that as well. I can remember sitting in the dark and watching them, and I joked for years, even before the reboot, that my best friend Tanya Jean and I, she and I would go to the Walmart at like 2 o'clock in the morning and things like that. We would go get fountain pops at the gas station, drive around, listen to country music, and then we would go to like the Walmart at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I would always say to her, like, Tanya, we're going to end up on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And she's like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, where they show in the old Unsolved Mysteries where they play the music in the background, and then they show like a car with like the open door in the parking lot of Walmart, and it's like, Tanya Jean was last seen entering the Walmart at 2 a.m. with her good Judy, Peter Mon. She had her wallet and her purse with her. She also had her cell phone. Peter Mon was talking nonstop as he entered the Walmart. Both were caught on camera, never to be seen again. I was like, Tanya, we're going to be on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. So she'd be like, don't say that stuff about me. Oh my God, that show's so real. And I loved even watching the updates. When you'd watch the whole like 3, because back in the day it was like an hour and it'd be 3 episodes. One would be like about alien invasion. One would be about like some like, 2 people separated at birth that like, were reunified with their birth family. And then the third one would be like some horrific murder. And then the last 5 minutes would be an update about how, somebody that had been missing for 15 years was found, tending bar in Oklahoma City or something like that. You know what I mean? I loved it so much. And so when it came out, the reboot a couple years ago, Season 1, I was so excited about it. And I loved Season 1. I love Season 1. I don't know when it came out, but I do remember that Season 2 when it came out. My husband and I had rented a house, like an Airbnb, on the Intercoastal in Fort Lauderdale. And we went there in October, I think it was in October. And I was so excited. And we had this like table outside. For those of you that watch me for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. We had this beautiful pool outside and this table outside. And at night, my husband would go to bed and I would sit outside and I would watch TV shows. And I think I watched Ratchet when I was on that trip too. I don't know why I just remember that. So whenever that season came out was around the time that this Unsolved Mysteries came out. And so I would sit out there and I remember watching, it was the one about the spy and it was like in Berlin and they found her like, it was that season, whatever season that is. Is that the first season or maybe, I think it's the second season, but anyway, whatever season that is. And I can remember being so scared and I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I love this, blah, 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 whatever. So I should look that up and see, hold on a second really quick, what season that is. Because if that's Season 1, I don't think that's season 1. I think it's Season 2. The first season had 6 episodes. The second season, I'm almost positive it's the second season. Death in Oslo. Yeah, that's the second season. So I have been waiting for all of these seasons to come out. I don't know why it takes so long for these seasons to come out, but it takes so long. Apparently, well, at the end of the 5th episode of this, they showed the trailer for Season 5 of Unsolved Mysteries. So I don't know what the release date is in that. I didn't even look it up. So anyway, I can in a second. But anyway, so why is there hair hanging off the side of my hat? So I watched Season 3, and I thought Season 3 was done fantastically. I thought it was a good mix of different stories, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really, really well done. So I was so excited for Season 4 coming out, and in all honesty, I didn't even know that it was coming out. I didn't know when it was coming out. And so it was like 2 weeks ago or something, one of my friends said to me something about like, my friend Nikki texted me, and she was like, did you know Unsolved Mysteries is coming out, like on the 1st or whatever? I was like, oh my God, I didn't know. And so then we were going to stay up and all this kind of stuff. So the other night, I had finished some shows, and I was like, I'm going to stay up and I'm going to watch at least the first episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And so I stayed up and I watched the first episode. So I usually go in and I look at what all the episodes are about, but I was so excited about Unsolved Mysteries coming out that I was like, I am not going to go in and look and see what the episodes are about. I'm just going to watch them, and then I'm just going to be surprised, right? So the first episode comes up, and it's about Jack the Ripper. And I was like, are you effing kidding me? Like, seriously? Like, we have waited like 2 years for this follow-up to season 3, and you start with Jack the Ripper. Like, this is so bizarre to me, right? Like, I am such a huge true crime junkie. I have a true crime book club that I run with my good Judy Mel. Hey, Mel, how are you? If you guys like to read true crime, it's listed below the Facebook group. All you have to do is go over there and join it, and we do live streams, and we pick a book every month to read and things like that. I love true crime, okay? I love, even like some historical true crime do I love. The Jack the Ripper story, to me, I feel like I know so much about it because I've just read so many articles. It's been referenced in so many movies. I was like, I could care less about this. In fact, I started it and I got a DM because I posted on my Instagram. You got to follow my Instagram if you want to know my sister wives' little things and what I'm watching and whatever. And so I posted the poster of Unsolved Mysteries, and I was like, they're back, like, you know, Poltergeist. And somebody DM'd me and was like, they start off with Jack the Ripper, I'm so bored, or something like that. And I was like, and so I started watching it and I responded to them and I was like, they said, what an odd choice, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I totally agree, but it's done really well. And it was done really well. I was really, really impressed with it. They have these 2 historians, these true crime or crime historians, that were fantastic at telling the story of Jack the Ripper in a really, really interesting way. They really humanized the victims. They talked about each of the 5 victims, each of the women. They shared their stories in there, which I love when they, you know, humanize victims. I think it's important to true crime. And they went in there and they talked about it. They talked about the original Jack the Ripper letter and how they came up with the name Jack the Ripper, and that, you know, this one person, this one true crime historian, she didn't think the letter was real. And then it's like the Dear Boss letter that he signs Jack the Ripper. And then all the letters. They talk about all the letters. They talk about the suspects. It was really, really thorough in how they did it. And it was an interesting ending, too, because at the end, they said that they believe that there's somebody out there whose, like, great-grandmother, you know, had a trunk, and in the trunk is evidence of, like, who Jack the Ripper really was, or something like that. Now, we could still find out. I thought it was really, really interesting. They even go into DNA analysis and all this kind of stuff. So I thought it was really well done. And I was like, okay, so I'm not interested in Jack the Ripper, but this was done so well that every other episode is going to be fantastic. And I cannot tell you how wrong I was. I was so completely bored with this. I mean, I was like, first of all, I didn't understand how they picked the stories that they picked. In all honesty, it's kind of weird to me because if I were in charge of Unsolved Mysteries, what I would do is I would go back through like the highest viewed episodes that were ever existed on the original Unsolved Mysteries, and I would take like one of those stories and turn it into like a full episode on this. Like the ones that were like got the most attention back in the day that still don't have updates to this day. I would like take one of those stories, but that's not what they do. And I'm so completely confused by the stories that they picked. And in all honesty, like all the stories are sad and tragic, and I feel bad for all the victims involved and things like that. It wasn't just that the stories weren't that interesting. It was just that they were told it was so slow, you guys. I mean, I was texting my friend last night. We were joking because I was like, get off your phone, because she was watching it with her husband as well. And so, but I found myself like, I really try to stay off social media and watching TV so I can just be really focused. And I found myself continuing to pick up my phone and like, oh my God, I don't have any emails in the last 5 minutes. You know, it's like, I was so bored with it. So the first episode is about Jack the Ripper. The second episode is called Something in the Sky. Over 300 residents... Oh, wait, that's not it. This is season 3. Hold on a second. The first episode is Who's Jack the Ripper. The second episode is called Body in the Basement. Amanda Antoni's husband finds her body in their basement with blood everywhere. The scene confounds police. Was it foul play or a tragic accident? And so it's about... it takes place in Canada, and it's about this woman... And her husband goes away for the weekend to go visit. I mean, it was a sad and tragic story. Horribly sad and tragic. But he goes to help his mother put some things together because his father's passed away recently. And he comes back because he can't get a hold of her one day. And he calls her on the phone. Like, he hears some things in the background and the phone goes dead. For me, what was interesting about this part was that if that were me and that was my husband, like, I immediately would be calling neighbors or anybody. Like, can you go and check? Like, he's not answering his phone. We were on the phone. And he's just like, oh, well... I heard something, the dog barking in the background, the phone, like, it just went off, and then I put just the phone down. It was just, like, that was so bizarre to me. I was like, if that were my husband, I'd be, like, calling the neighbors, like, can you go knock on the door? Like, I'm worried about my husband. That was so weird to me. And so what it is that she apparently was, like, they don't really say it till the end. They showed, I mean, this basement was so covered in blood, and... they showed that she, like, hit this thing, and then, like, but they made it sound at first like this piggy bank that was broken, like, somebody hit her over the head with it. That was how it seemed at the beginning of it. And then, but then she was in the basement, and so her husband comes home and he finds her body in the basement. It was a tragic story, right? But what was interesting to me was that towards the end, they like go through and they don't find any other DNA, okay? They don't find anything. And so they say that with the loss of blood that she could have been confused because she walks right up to the steps, but then they're like, if she thought the intruder was still in the house, she wouldn't have walked up the steps and things like that. The dog and the cat never come downstairs, so their paw prints are nowhere in the blood, so that was very bizarre. And so, but when you're watching it, it's like, there was a part for me where I was like, she fell down those stairs and hurt herself, and if they never go down the stairs, the dog and the cat might not know to go down there and check on her. They might not even know that she had fallen down the stairs to go check on her down there, right? Because when you start looking at the blood scene, it looks like she's trying to push herself up, and that she falls down, and she pushes herself. And they even say at a couple points she was standing, right? And that she actually died from blood loss. So to me, like, they all still believe that it's this murder, and I was watching it, and I was like, I thought at the end they were going to say, I mean, it was ruled, you know, that there was no conclusion to it, but I was like they all believe it was a murder. I mean, I think when you watch Unsolved Mysteries, you kind of want to think these things are murder, but I was like, I really feel like this was like a really bad accident. Her phone is across the room. Well, if she fell, you know, they're saying that the dog was barking. If she fell and she fell into the wall and something like that, you could, like, your phone could skid across the floor, you know? But then there was a chair that was turned over, so that stuff was speculative to me. That case was interesting to me, and it was told well. All the stories were very humanizing of the victims, and I thought that was good. I just thought that it was an interesting case out of all the cases that Unsolved Mysteries has covered through the years. But that was interesting. It was one of the more interesting ones. The next one was called The Severed Head. Now, my friend lives in Pennsylvania, and she was watching this with her husband. Apparently, they know a lot about this case. And so she was really excited about this case. And so I was really excited about watching this case. This case wasn't anything like I thought it would be. It was called The Severed Head because this 15-year-old kid is walking along the road and is out in the woods, and he finds this severed head put on top of the leaves, right? But then they find out when they go in that it's the head from an embalmed body, all right? And they don't even know how long ago it was embalmed. But instead of, like, they have these eye things over, there's rubber balls. I mean, the story was so weird. And they have this one guy, and he lives across from where the head was found, and he's real trying to solve the crime, and they think he's in it, but then he denies that he's in it, and he has, like, an alibi. And then he find out he's friends with the kid that finds the head. The story was like, I mean, it was like they just kind of presented it. It's like they just kind of like threw it out there, and there was really, that was it, right? In fact, it was interesting in all these stories, they kind of went down roads that then there would be like they went into this whole thing about this woman whose, like, head was cut off from this mausoleum, and then there was, like, the satanic rituals that were happening in this cave, but then that had nothing to do with the story. And I'm like, why did you just waste 10 minutes of a 45-minute story telling us something that has nothing to do with the story? You should have done it about the satanic rituals and this woman, because that would have been more interesting of who did that, you know? That would have been a more interesting case. So they make this sculpture of her head, they do these drawings, there's no resolution to it. I mean, it's Unsolved Mysteries, right? So there's no resolution. What is interesting is that after season 3, if you remember, and after season 2, a lot of news stories broke about how people were calling in and giving evidence, and I think one case was even solved. So I was, like, watching these, and I was like, this is going to be interesting to see what happens after this. The third one was called Murder Center Stage. Sigurd Stevenson's chilling murder on the stage of a locked campus theater still haunts a New Jersey college as new theories about her killer emerge. And that one was like, this was another one for me that was, like, very sad. They honored the victim very, very well by telling her story, but it was about a student, I think it was like 1977, that had gone to this Trent State College or something, and she was, like, a music student, and she got there before the campus opened, so she was sleeping in, like, the theater, in, like, the green room, and then she would play piano. Well, they found her body at, like, 11 o'clock at night, and she had been, like, beaten and all this kind of stuff, and so then they thought it was police officers, and then they thought it was this guy Chuck that was an actor, but then he ended up dying, and his girlfriend said that his girlfriend said that he had been abusive, and that she was like the one character out of the whole thing that I was, like, interested in. I was like, can we get a little bit more time with her? And he told her that he could kill her because he had killed somebody before and gotten away with it. I watched the whole thing. I was like, it's Chuck. Chuck did it. But all these people took lie detector tests, and they passed it. And then there was, like, the DNA that they got off of her shirt didn't match. But it was this, I mean, she had been living in a green room. She hadn't been doing wash. 400 people could have touched that shirt. They took DNA off this shirt from what they tied around her neck, and they took DNA off of that, and the DNA sample did not match Chuck's brother. All these people passed the lie detector test, and so that was, like, fact, you know? I was like, no, it was totally Chuck. Chuck did it. I mean, like, I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is so obvious. Like, she's got Chuck written in her playbill. Chuck bought me a thing. And then she's talking about this. She and Chuck interacted. It's like, it was so interesting. And then they have this police officer, this retired police officer, this woman. I really liked her. And she went in there and she was like, it was either the lighting guy at the theater, or it was this maintenance guy, because he like went around and helped her all this kind of stuff. I was like, sweetie, anybody watching this show can tell you it's Chuck. I don't care how many DNA tests and whatever. It's Chuck. We all know it's Chuck. Fuck Chuck. We know it, okay? So anyway, I was like, I mean, they show his picture and everything. And then the last one, I was like so excited. I was like, can we please have a UFO one? Like, I love the UFO. I mean, I believe in aliens to this day, and it's all because of Unsolved Mysteries. I was like, can we please just have one UFO one? And so I'm like, the last one has to be a UFO, because they've now done Jack the Ripper history case, 3 murder cases. The last one has to be. Can we get a missing person, or can we get a UFO one? Well, the last one is called, I need to talk about boredom and confusion. I was so boredom and confusion, okay? The Mothman Revisited. Amid eerie sightings of a tall winged humanoid creature with red eyes, paranormal investigators explore the Mothman's seeming link to major disasters. Okay. So, the first one, part of this, was this woman, she's taking out the trash, okay? And she takes out the trash, and she sees this big winged creature that's like 7 to 8 feet tall, standing there with these beady red eyes. She starts walking inside, running inside, because she's scared for her life, right? Nobody believes her. I wouldn't believe her either. I'd be like, girl, how much weed did you smoke? Okay, because I don't know what kind of weed you were smoking, but you don't want to smoke that again, because you're seeing winged things, okay? So I'm watching this, and all these people, and they interview all these people, right? And it totally reminded me of back in the day. I loved Coast to Coast AM. Do you guys remember Coast to Coast AM? Okay. Coast to Coast, well, I can't remember what that guy's name was. But anyway, Coast to Coast AM, what was his name? Somebody in the comment section don't Google search it. If you know, you know, okay? Well, I can't think of his name. Art? Was it Art something? There was 2 different hosts. And one started it and then one finished it. It's still on, but it was like from like 1 to 5 a.m. Oh my God, I loved it. And they would talk about like shadow figures and aliens and conspiracy theories and all this kind of stuff. I loved it so much. But the best part was the wild card hotline, right? And then so these people would call in, they go, wild card hotline. Judy, you are on, I've shared this, I've used this example so many times, but I'm going to use it again. And they'd be like, wildcard hotline, Judy, you're on line 2. What's your story, please? And she'd say, hi, my name's Judy. And I live out in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. And I work at the gas station. I work at the Speedway out here. And I got home, and I work second shift, you know. So I get home between about 11 and 12. Now, my husband, Dwayne, he works first shift, so he takes care of our 4 kids. He puts the babies to sleep. So I got home that night, and he hadn't made nothing to eat. I left some meatloaf. He didn't even heat that up. Yes, Judy, what is your story, please? Well, I'm getting to that story. So anyway, so Dwayne, he was sitting inside. He was watching the game on the TV show, and he had one of his good Judys ever. His good Judy. Dwayne's good Judy. He had one of his good buddies ever. So I made me a ham salad sandwich. Yes, Judy, what is your story, please? Well, okay, I'm getting to it. But see, I made a ham salad sandwich, and I put one of those dill pickle slices on there. I love them dill pickles so much. And then I got me a Natty Light, and I went out and I sat on the back patio. We got these 3 cement steps that go up to the back patio, and I'm sitting out there, and we look over a cornfield, see? Now, I was sitting out there and I was talking to my good friend on the phone, Sheila. And when I was talking to Sheila on the phone, Sheila was asking me about how it was at the Speedway tonight, things like that. And I said, well, I got me, a big gulp on the way home. And she's like, Judy, could you please tell your story, please? I'm getting to my story. So anyway, I was sitting there, I was talking to Sheila, and I was eating my ham salad sandwich and drinking my Natty Light and trying to get my buzz on, things like that. And all of a sudden, I see this big saucer laying in the cornfield, And then all of a sudden, now this saucer comes this 8-foot guy. He was one of them grays that y'all always are talking about, but he had a cowboy hat, and he tipped that cowboy hat, and he said, hey, Judy, howdy, how you doing? I about wanted to pass out. So I'm sitting there, I'm watching this Mothman thing, and I'm like, this is so ridiculous, okay? This is like one of these people calling in, and then they're talking about, they have all these paranormal experts. This one guy, wanted to look up, because his stuff was, interesting that he did, but he said on there that, the 2 biggest paranormal, sightings and stories are UFOs and Bigfoot. Well, that doesn't surprise me, okay, at all. But then he said the 3rd one was winged humanoid figures. I'm like, what the fuck? Who is talking about? I've never in my life had anybody ever. I know what I say is people be like, oh yeah, people are talking about it all the time. Oh, no. I watch documentaries about reptilian aliens taking over the earth. I watch documentaries about everything. I have never heard anybody. I felt like this was a James Patterson book, okay, about them winged children that go to that school and they're medical experiments. I was like, Mothman Prophecies, I remember that movie, but I was like, I have never heard anybody on any of those wild card lines, which I listened to that for years, ever talk about. I've heard them talk about shadow figures, ghosts, spirits, all kinds of things, fairies in a garden. I've heard them talk about all kinds. I've never heard anybody talk about seeing a winged humanoid figure, okay? You know, Loch Ness, totally believe in it. I believe in everything, okay? I believe in fairies. Why wouldn't I? Come on now. I believe in everything, okay? I even believe in old Santa Claus. Why wouldn't I believe in all that winged humanoid figures? And then they show pictures of it. I'm like, oh no, ma'am, I don't believe this. I was so bored of this, okay? This is the worst season of Unsolved Mysteries ever. I was so like, and then I was like, and you only put 5 episodes out. We've been waiting 2 years. When does the next season come out? Let's look it up. Unsolved Mysteries. Hold on a second. Unsolved. And every time I tell somebody I'm watching Unsolved Mysteries, they're like, oh, the old ones? I'm like, no, the season on Netflix. They're like, oh, I didn't even know. Okay. Release date. When's it come out? I hope it comes out next week, because this was not it. I'm telling you right now, this was horrible. Horrible. Season 5 release date. It's set to arrive on Netflix for Halloween 2024. If you're binging through the latest batch of episodes of Unsolved Mysteries, don't worry, you'll be bored restless. No, it doesn't say that. You needn't worry about the show's future status. Volume 5 has been confirmed to be coming to Netflix exclusively in 2024. Well, I hope it's better than Season 4, because Season 4 was... Anyway, let me know what you thought in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.